Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I like when these guys here in the free world promote a story and it's at the level of a Hollywood movie, which is below 13 years of age. That's the level of a boy or a girl over 13. Actually, it should be a little bit different here because at that time the brain is developed a little bit different for boys and girls. But anyway, let's put it 13-year-old child. And that is, they try to make all kind of, problems. What's that? That's a fight between, alleged fight between Prigozhin and Shoigu, or the Wagner mercenary group and the mighty Russian army. Who do you think will win if they ever get in a little scuffle? I think the answer is clear. The Russian army will just squash the little paramilitary group Wagner, but they try to make it like Prigozhin is challenging them. That's, as I said, drop your level to about below 86 IQ, and then you're gonna understand and agree with that proposition. Now, what do we have here? We have Bakhmut, and in Bakhmut, as you know, the Wagner group is fighting like crazy, and the Russian military behind are supporting them. That's been, I think, for the entire 1 year and 2 months or so of war in Ukraine, and that is because not only the Wagner group, but also the volunteer troops from the liberated territories or annexed territories. Why? Because the Russians don't want to rock the boat in Russia proper and bring a lot of dead young men there. So they use these guys and say, hey guys, you wanted to be with us? Well, you have to be the guys who are going to be pulling the hardest. And I think that's what's going on over there. So let's see this article. This is going to give us an update on what's going on in Bakhmut. According to Ukrinform, it's a Ukrainian state media, Russia strengthening Wagner group aiming to capturing Bakhmut. So now, and this is the Institute of Study of War, think tank in Washington, D.C., which in my assessment lost its credibility a long time ago, and I mentioned that when exactly that happened. But hey, that's why they're used by Ukrainska Pravda, because if they would try to be, let's say, impartial, or not impartial, but like an institute that studies something, means no, impartial, objective, then they will not be used by Ukrinform. I guarantee you that. And the same thing is true for the Russians, so don't get me wrong. You use whatever tells your story. If you don't tell me the story, I'm not gonna use you, unless to make fun of you and discredit you. Russia strengthening Wagner group aiming to capture Bakhmut. I thought that Russia was fighting Wagner group. That was the last movie these guys promoted. Now it seems like they're back together. Isn't that interesting? All right. The Russian command is reinforcing the Wagner group units deployed near Bakhmut with modern assets in order to help the force capture the Ukrainian town in Donetsk region. My God, isn't that kind of like dangerous for the Russian command? What if Wagner group turns around and gonna just how do you call it, destroy the Russian military? You see who's in charge here? You know immediately who gives whom, not only orders but also weapons. Without that, you're done, and logistics. That's according to the Institute of Study of War. Ukrinform reports. In their update as of April 16, analysts point out that the Russian Defense Ministry took the step despite the obvious conflict. Obvious. I don't think it was any obvious. I think you just created it with a group ran by Yevgeny Prigozhin, Minister Shoigu's critic. Well, how can you be critic in Russia when Putin kills all his critics? And obviously Putin is a very good buddy of Shoigu for years. So I don't know. They don't bother to explain that, or they will find a weasel interpretation of that. And I'm quoting, the Russian Ministry of Defense is seeking to work more closely with the Wagner group in order to complete the capture of Bakhmut. How closer do you want? Have intercourse or what? Because they are very close as we speak. Despite obvious. No, they're not obvious. You say they're obvious because you want to make them seem obvious. Prigozhin and the traditional Ministry of Defense establishment, the tensions. Pretty sure they fight on the same side and tensions are even in marriages. So yes, thank you very much. I mean, they try to make something out of, you know, do you think there are now tensions in the Ukrainian military command, or in Ukraine, let's say, between the military and the political establishment, or the so-called elites? I mean, that's a story for, again, 13 years old, if you think that's not. That's something that's omnipresent, and there is tensions, you know, but not to the extent these guys make, oh my God, because they contradict themselves. The critics are killed, but Prigozhin is a critic, but then he's not a critic, and then he's not killed because Putin needs him, but he's not important, but he's important. Make up your freaking minds. The ISW points out that the mercenaries, oh, they're mercenaries now, also have at their disposal T-90 tanks. I thought that according to the free, truthful mass media in the West, Russia doesn't really have T-90s anymore. And they're a piece of garbage. So where's the danger, stranger? Nothing. Which indicates that the Russian leadership has provided the group with more modern assets in their effort to take the town. And I'm going to add here, yes, but T-90s, there are no more, and they're a piece of garbage, rusty things that the American fantastic weapons will destroy in no time. So yeah, you can have them, dear mercenaries, how much you want. You're not a threat whatsoever. Okay, this is the way it should be emphasized here. And analysts also emphasize that Prigozhin has recently become less likely to publicly slam the Russian leadership over war failures. Well, that's not true, because I've made a video yesterday, actually, with Prigozhin criticizing the elites and the Russian leadership, saying that, oh, you know, how about Putin, you stop the war, you, like he can, stop the war, because we kind of reached our goals. Why don't you shut up and go over there and do what I'm telling you? This is what probably Putin told. Didn't even bother. Putin's above that. But anyway, so again, just check my video with the, again, articles coming from the West, not from the Russians necessarily. All right, at the same time, and you can check the Russians too. What's wrong with that? They all lie anyway. At the same time, the report notes that the Wagner group returned 130 Ukrainian prisoners of war on April 16, which indicates that the focus could carry out the exchange independently of the Russian Ministry of Defense. Well, that which indicates that, all right, that means they have a lot of freedom, right? So these guys contradict themselves. They have a lot of freedom, and then they receive weapons from the Ministry of Defense. So who's in charge? Like in Ukraine, if the West stops providing them with ammunition and weapons, why do you think it's going to stop? What do you think is going to happen in Ukraine? They will stop the war. They was done. I mean, we all know that, and if we don't know that, well, I don't know what to tell you. Just wait, and you'll see. The report suggests that Wagner may be trying to force mobilize Russian servicemen to sign contracts with Prigozhin's group. Again, this is another movie these guys are promoting, with Prigozhin's group, likely in an attempt to compensate for losses incurred in Ukraine. Well, there are losses. We can't deny that one, that's for sure. I think that Bakhmut is done. It's been done from, I would say, from February. The Ukrainians already knew it's done. The problem is it's a matter of time. And what's the plan? Well, it's a psychological, it's going to be a psychological hit if they lose Bakhmut, obviously, and they will show it as they showed Mariupol, Azovstal. They put the resistance, they're going to kill some, they're going to get killed, and then after they get surrounded, they will come out as prisoners, telling us that they came out to save lives, which is very noble. And we're going to all believe them anyway. But in the meantime, thousands of people were killed because they didn't give the order to retreat and fight a normal war. How should I put it? Normal. What's a normal war, you would ask? Not the one that you hide in between civilian infrastructure, apartment buildings and all that, with civilians in there defending the civilians, therefore inviting the crazies to raise the city as it just occurred. So, it's not like that. I mean, if I want to fight a neighbor, I'm not going to hide behind my family and fight a neighbor and shoot at them. You know what I mean? I just say, okay, we meet where? We meet in the woods, over there. We're going to have witnesses, and we're going to have the same weapons, both of them. We're going to our back like this, walk 10 steps, turn around, shoot at the command, and we see who's better. Or maybe we just go over there, we start fighting, and that's it. And who comes out is the victorious one. We don't have to involve our nation or like children or families and all that. But hey, I think that if I show up at a duel site with my family and I put it behind me while I'm aiming, and he's aiming and he misses and kills my family, one member of my family, is he guilty? I mean, we're at war, we can't change that, but you can also change certain things that you didn't. Remember, think about the open city, okay, that the Paris was declared when the Germans were coming. The Wehrmacht was creeping towards, not creeping, actually was sprinting towards, I would say Berlin, Paris, and the French said, well, it's an open city, don't hit, don't shoot. What happened? We still have Paris. But anyway, that's a different mentality, I guess. These guys are just don't really care for. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.